There are some cases in the National Park Service archives that are closed without question. In a ranger's report dated the 7th of July, 1997, there is a terse note. Human remains found in lost horse mine side tunnel. What the report doesn't say is how this discovery divided one ranger's life into before and after, and that some disappearances in national parks have more complex causes than official reports indicate. My name is Kyle Webb, and I'm 39 years old. Prior to working for the National Park Service, I spent 9 years with the California Highway Patrol. From 1985 to 1994, I patrolled the highways of Riverside County, dealing with accidents, violators, and sometimes crime. I quit after a conflict with my superiors. I discovered a corruption scheme in the department and couldn't keep quiet. It cost me my career. In 1995, I applied to the NPS, looking for a quieter job and an opportunity to start again. I have been a ranger in Joshua Tree National Park for 2 years. It is 3,200 square kilometers of the Mojave Desert with unique trees and rock formations. Tourists see the spectacular scenery and take pictures. Rangers know the other side. Extreme temperature swings from 40 degrees during the day to sub-zero temperatures at night, rugged areas where it's easy to get lost, and abandoned gold rush mines. My area of responsibility includes the Lost Horse Mine area, an abandoned gold mine closed to the public due to the risk of cave-ins. The nearest ranger post is 25 kilometers away. Radio communication in mines and canyons is unstable. You have to rely on your own experience and make decisions on your own. The main problems in my area are the so-called miners who ignore the prohibitions and keep digging in abandoned mines in search of gold or precious metals. Tourists who underestimate the dangers of the desert. My police experience helps. I notice traces that others miss. I analyze situations as potential accident scenes. Sometimes it saves lives. Sometimes it creates problems with superiors who prefer not to rock the boat. On July 1st, 1997, during my morning patrol, I noticed fresh tire tracks on the dirt road leading to the abandoned mines. It was strange. The road had been closed for several years. That same day, I was approached by Bill Hayes, an auto mechanic from 29 Palms. His 22-year-old daughter Laura had gone missing a year ago while photographing abandoned mines for a college project. Bill was sure Laura had stumbled onto something dangerous in the Lost Horse Mine area. I didn't know then that this request for help would tie the park's past and present together in one tragic thread, and that the decisions I made would haunt me long after the Laura Hayes case was officially closed. At 7 in the morning, the thermometer read 23 degrees. By noon, it would be 40. I planned a routine patrol, checking campsites, checking trails, checking signs. My 1993 Jeep Cherokee started the first time, and the radio worked clearly. Bill Hayes, 54, an auto mechanic from 29 Palms, was waiting for me in the office, worn jeans, calloused hands. "My daughter Laura went missing a year ago," he said. 22 years old, went to college, photographed abandoned mines for a history project. Bill showed a photograph, a girl with dark hair against the backdrop of the Joshua Tree cliffs. Last called on the 15th of June, 1996. Said she found an interesting mine. "Have the police been looking?" I asked him. 3 weeks. Found her car at Hidden Valley. Nothing else. Case closed. Bill held out a photocopy of a page from his notebook. The girl's handwriting. Saw the cars at Lost Horse again. 2 pickup trucks. Men with torches going into the mine. I'll try to get closer tomorrow. Showed to the police. Said junkies looking for a hideout. Checked superficially. Bill put the photo away. Just take another look around the neighborhood. With a professional eye. I agreed to check out the Lost Horse Mine. Bill left the room and drove off. By 10 in the morning, I was at the dirt track to the mine. Fresh tire tracks on the damp ground from the night's rain. Wide treads a few days old. The road has been closed since 1994 after a collapse. The chain was removed and thrown to the side. Someone had a key or tools. I followed the tracks on foot. The radio hissed with interference. Communication is unstable in the canyons. At the mine entrance, I found Marlboro cigarette butts, plastic bottles, a candy bar wrapper, The trash is fresh. I switched on the torch and entered the tunnel, the smell of damp metal and chemistry. After 40 meters, the shaft branched off. The boot prints went to the right, into the main tunnel. In a side niche, I found a metal container the size of a suitcase. Next to it were rubber gloves, a respirator, glass tubes with liquid residue. The smell of chemistry grew stronger. I photographed the find with a film camera. The container contained plastic bottles with transparent liquid, syringe packs, and safety instructions. The text is washed out, but I could make out, at a temperature not exceeding 25 degrees Celsius, hazard class 3. A clandestine lab? But the equipment's too professional for regular drug dealers. Deeper down, he found a laminated map of the area with red crosses on it. 5 marks within a 3-kilometer radius. Handwriting says, Stash Hash 3, July 1996. Someone's been using the mine as a warehouse for over a year. He heard footsteps at the entrance, turned off the lantern. 3 men, talking quietly and indistinctly, heard words like, check Sector 3. The samples should be there. If the cops poke around again. I pressed myself against the wall. In the semi-darkness, I could make out silhouettes, 3 in work clothes, 1 with a walkie-talkie. They moved confidently. Hey, mate, called out a voice. I was noticed. Turning around, he turned the torch on their faces. Ranger Webb, National Park Service. The area is closed. 3 middle-aged, tanned men. 1 has a metal detector, another a homemade mine detector, the third a shovel. Gold prospectors. We have permission to excavate, said the former. Excavations are prohibited in the national park. Documents. They looked at each other. The atmosphere was heating up. There was only one way out. The radio didn't work. We can share the finds, said the second, showing a copy of the same map. Bought it from a local old guy for 50 quid. Name's Joe. Lives by the road on Keys View. They began to circle. The problem is we only have one map. And you found something interesting. Pulled out his walkie-talkie. Central, this is Webb. Code 10, 54 at Lost Horse Mine. No need to call for backup, said the first. The ceiling creaked. The old bracing was failing. Stones splintered. Everybody out, now! We jumped out seconds before the collapse. The entrance was half blocked. Shit, our tools are in there! One swore. Took a picture of their faces and the license plate of the Ford F-150 pickup. Showed their licenses. Tom, Mike, and Dan from Palm Springs. Just the usual easy money guys. Leave the area immediately. If I see you again, I'll arrest you. They left. I stayed by the collapsed mine. In my rucksack, a map of the geocaches. In the camera, pictures of the containers. A notebook with the names of the perpetrators. Enough for a report. But what to write to the bosses? About the chemicals and the map? It would cause an investigation, a fuss. After the problems at the traffic police, he wanted to avoid scandals. Laura, on the other hand, disappeared here. Maybe she ran into the same people. If I don't say anything, I'm missing a lead. The decision was made by looking at a picture of a girl from Bill. Laura deserved answers. Back at the base, I made a brief report on the intruders and the collapse. I didn't mention the containers and the map. Not yet. First, I had to find old Joe and find out what he knew about the caches and the missing girl. The night passed restlessly. The map with the red crosses kept me awake. At 6 o'clock in the morning, I was on my way to look for old Joe. Temperature 19 degrees. Clear. Drove by memory and paper maps. Found the trailer after an hour. An old 1970s Airstream parked in the shade by the side of the road. Next to a battered 1980 Chevrolet pickup truck and a makeshift awning made of tarps. Smoke was billowing from the chimney. An old man opened the door. 70 years old, gray beard, faded flannel shirt. His eyes were clear, attentive. Joe Carter, he introduced himself. And you're the ranger who caught the gold diggers at Lost Horse yesterday. How do you know? Tom Rivers stopped by, complained about losing his equipment to the collapse. Joe grinned. Come on in, there's coffee. The inside of the trailer is Spartan. Folding furniture, a gas cooker, shelves of tinned food. On the wall, there are topographical maps of the area marked with colored buttons. Tom said you sold them the geocache map, I began. I sold a copy. I have the original on me. Joe pulled a tattered paper from a desk drawer. Prospectors in the 1930s did hide finds in the mines, but not just gold. The map was more detailed than the one I'd seen. 12 marks instead of 5, with dates from 1931 to 1938. Next to the Lost Horse Mine, it was marked June 1996. What does this mark mean? Joe poured coffee into metal mugs. There was a girl who came here a year ago. Laura was called Laura, took pictures of the mines, asked about the history of the area. Smart, not like those treasure hunters. My heart beat faster. What did she want to know? Asked about the strange people by the mines. Saw them a few times at night. I said drug dealers use the tunnels as laboratories. That's how it was in the 1980s too. Joe sipped his coffee. But Laura thought something else was going on down there. Showed pictures of machines, people in masks. Said the equipment was too expensive for regular junkies. Have you seen these pictures? A scene, professional containers, protective suits. Looks more like a military operation. Joe stood up, walked over to the map on the wall. Laura was asking about the Lost Horse side tunnels. The old mine plans show passageways that aren't on modern maps. He pointed to a mark in red pencil. Northeast tunnel, about 200 meters from the main entrance, stoned back in the 1940s, but the passage remains. Laura wanted to check it out. And then what happened? I don't know, haven't seen any more. Joe turned back to the table. But a week after she disappeared, some uniformed men showed up outside the mine, military or feds. They were hauling something out in special containers. Police instinct told me the old man was telling the truth. There were too many details to make up. Can you show me the way to the side tunnel? Joe shook his head. I'm getting old for rock climbing, but I can draw a diagram. He picked up a pencil and a piece of paper. From the main entrance of Lost Horse, go north 200 meters. There's a rock scree at the foot of the cliff. Look for a metal post, remnants of old markings. There's a gap between the boulders. I took a picture of the diagram. If anything happens, call the park office. Ask for Ranger Webb. Be careful, son, Joe said goodbye. Laura was a brave girl, perhaps too brave. The next day, I took a reinforced kit. Extra batteries for the torch, rope, first aid kit, water for the whole day. The radio was not working well, but at least it was picking up the main frequency. The main entrance to the mine was blocked after yesterday's cave-in. I had to find a side passage using Joe's scheme. The rock scree, the metal pole, the gap between the boulders, everything was in place. I squeezed through the narrow gap. Behind him, a sloping tunnel opened up, leading deep into the rock. Smelled of mold and something else. I switched on the torch. The tunnel was wider than the main tunnel, but lower. I had to crouch down. 50 meters later, I came across an obstacle. An old wooden shield with the inscription, "Danger Landslide." Behind the shield, the tunnel continued, but it was blocked with stones. On the right, I noticed a narrow passage. Someone had removed part of the rubble. I squeezed through the gap. Behind it was a small chamber, about 4 meters in diameter. The lantern illuminated something I didn't expect to see. In the corner of the cell, covered by an old tarpaulin, lay human remains. My heart jumped. I took out my camera, took a few pictures, then came closer. The skeleton was partially decomposed, but much was preserved. The dry desert climate slows decay. Clothes, denim jacket, faded t-shirt, hiking boots. Nearby, a rusty bracelet engraved Laura Hayes and a broken camera. His hands shook as he took pictures of the find site. Bill's year of searching, hoping, and despair ended in that small chamber underground. I took a closer look at the remains. Skull intact, no obvious signs of violence on the bones. Could be an accident. Got lost in the tunnels, couldn't get out, or dehydration. Found a rucksack next to the body. Inside, a notebook with notes, some films for the camera, a bottle of water. The last entry in the notebook dated the 15th of June, 1996. Side tunnel leads to the camera. Found signs of recent activity. Strange containers like the ones at the entrance. Someone is using the shaft for storage. Need more evidence. So, Laura did discover the stash house. Probably confronted whoever was guarding it. Checked the radio. Weak signal, but enough for a call. Central, this is Webb. Code 10, 54, coroner's assistance required. Lost Horse Mine side entrance. Webb, say again, I can't hear you very well. Are you? Human remains have been discovered. Possible Laura Hayes, missing since June 1996. We need a coroner and backup. Copy that. The team is on its way. Stand by at the location. I sat down at the entrance to the cell and waited. My mind was jumbled. Found the girl, but too late. Bill would get answers, but at what cost? An hour later, the San Bernardino County coroner and a police detective arrived. Official procedures, taking pictures, packing up the remains. I handed over the photos and notes from Laura's notebook. Preliminary cause of death? Detective Martinez asked. Hard to tell without forensics, the coroner replied. Dehydration, hypothermia, possible head trauma from the fall? Called Bill that evening, asked him to come to the office. The hardest call I've ever had to make. Bill arrived half an hour later. He was stone-faced, preparing himself for bad news. I told him about the find in the side tunnel, showed him pictures of the bracelet and camera. He was silent for a long time, holding the pictures in his hands. Then he asked quietly, "Did she suffer?" "I don't think so. Judging by the posture, just fell asleep and didn't wake up. The cold of a desert night." Bill nodded. "Thanks for not abandoning the search." On the 6th of July, it was officially confirmed through dental records that the remains belonged to Laura Hayes. The missing persons case was closed, but it didn't close for me. Laura's notebook had mentions of containers and strange people. She died investigating the same thing I found in the main tunnel. Coincidence? Or something more? Independence Day began with an alarm bell. At 5 in the morning, the radio came to life. All units, suspicious activity at Lost Horse Mine, unknown persons with equipment, Ranger Webb, check the area. The temperature is 21 degrees, windy. 4th of July is one of the busiest days in the park. Staff are in short supply. Took the standard kit and drove to the mine. Lost Horse Mine found a familiar 1991 Ford F-150 and 2 other cars at Lost Horse Mine. Tom Rivers returned with reinforcements. Now there were 5 of them, a larger group. Men with shovels were digging at the collapsed entrance, clearing the passage. "The area is closed. Stop work." Tom looked up. "We have a geological survey permit." A large man in a camouflage shirt held out an official-looking document. Seals, signatures, the Desert Minerals Inc. logo, all the right stuff. "Geological work in an area of recent death?" "We're looking for minerals, not corpses," snapped the thin man with the tattoo on his forearm. "By the way, we heard you found something interesting up there." They knew about Laura's find, but the information wasn't public. The coroner was still doing the paperwork. "How do you know about the find?" "Rumor has it," said Tom, showing a familiar map. "Bought it from old Joe. Interesting grandfather." I went back to the Jeep and tried to contact the office. The radio didn't work well. The canyons were jamming the signal. I managed to get through to the dispatcher. Check geological permit. Number G4477 SB, issued on the 3rd of July. "Wait a minute. Webb, there's no such permit in the database. Last issued on the 15th of June, different number. Forged documents. So these people aren't geologists. Then who are? And why would they want the mine now? Back to the group. Permit is invalid. Leave the area." "Can we make a deal?" the big one said. "Paid for information on what the girl found. Containers, coordinates." Skinny showed part of the map from the tunnel. The old man said some interesting things for the right price. "Where's Joe now?" "In a safe place. As long as we're here, he's fine." The threat was clear. He retreated to the Jeep, keeping his hand at his holster. The atmosphere was instantly heated. 5 against 1. Reinforcements are an hour away. The radio doesn't work well. The situation is worse than yesterday. There are more people. They are more aggressive. "Your radio isn't working," Tom said. "We checked, and the nearest checkpoint is an hour away." They began to slowly surround me. 2 of them had crowbars in their hands, and the third had a folding knife. I retreated to the Jeep with my hand on my holster. Suddenly a rumbling sound came from the shaft. The ground shook. Another collapse. "Tim stayed inside!" Tom shouted. Smoke was billowing from the entrance. Someone was screaming for help. "Grab the lantern and the rope." "Who's there?" "Our partner, checking the tunnels." I squeezed through a narrow gap in the rubble. The air inside the shaft was full of dust, and it was hard to breathe. I switched on my torch and moved down the main tunnel, calling out to the injured man. "Tim, where are you?" "Here, in the side passage on the right," he shouted in a weak voice. I found him in a dead-end tunnel, crushed by a fallen wooden beam. A guy in his 30s, scared but conscious. His leg was jammed, but his bones seemed intact. "Ranger Webb, We'll get him out now. I tied a rope around him and began to carefully clear the rubble. Any wrong move could cause another cave-in. After half an hour, freed the guy and helped him out. "Thank you," said the large one. "We owe you one." "The duty is simple. Get out and don't come back." Tom came up last, holding out a note. "Gold is cursed. Some secrets are better left in the ground. Joe." The next morning, I decided to go check on Joe. The trailer was parked in place, but the door was ajar. The inside was a mess: overturned furniture, scattered maps. There was a note on the floor, written in a trembling hand. "Kyle, they made me tell you about the tunnels and the maps. Going somewhere safe. Don't come looking for me. The gold is cursed. Joe." The old man disappeared. Perhaps the searchers had really forced him to cooperate, or perhaps he had decided to go into hiding himself, having realized the danger. The next day, Chief Richardson reviewed my report and the complaint from Desert Minerals, Inc. "The company claims they had permits and you were obstructing the work. I.D. are fake. Checked it through the database. They have a photo of you threatening with a gun. I didn't draw my weapon. The rescue of the injured man is in your favor, but this is the second incident in a week." Richardson set the papers aside. "Official warning. Next incident, suspension from remote areas. And another thing. Federal agencies are inquiring about events at Lost Horse. Something about environmental safety. You're not hiding anything?" "No, sir, it's all in the report." But it wasn't true. The chemical containers and the connection to Laura's death were left out of the report. In the evening, he rang Bill. "Forensics are complete. Cause of death is hypothermia and dehydration. Got lost in the tunnels." "I see. Thank you for looking. The funeral is tomorrow. Come." There were 30 people at the funeral. Bill asked me to say the words. Laura sought the truth and wasn't afraid to go where others didn't dare. Sometimes the truth comes at a price, but without people like that, the world would be a darker place. After the ceremony, Bill handed over an old photograph of Laura. "Let it remind you that you were doing the right thing." The next day, he filled in the final report. The missing tourist was found dead as a result of an accident caused by hypothermia and dehydration. Case closed. Didn't mention the chemical containers, didn't write about the connection between Laura's death and the suspicious activity. Some truths are too complex for official records, but my conscience wouldn't let go. Laura had died investigating something important. Her record of strange people was not a figment of her imagination. Perhaps someday the truth will come out. In the meantime, Lost Horse Mine remains a closed zone, officially because of cave-ins, unofficially because some desert mysteries are better left alone. Laura's photograph lies in her desk drawer, a reminder of the price of truth. October in Joshua Tree is the best time of the year. The temperature stays around 25 degrees during the day, and the nights are cool but not cold. The tourist season is in full swing, and there is plenty to do. I've been reassigned to patrol the central routes, officially for better contact with visitors, unofficially away from problem areas. Lost Horse Mine remains a closed area. At the entrance, new warning signs have been installed. The official reason is the critical condition of the structures, the threat of collapse. In reality, it's to prevent anyone else from poking their noses in there. The federal agents never showed up. Maybe the brass decided not to rock the boat, or maybe someone upstairs told them to shut it down. Either way, the investigation ended as abruptly as it had begun. Old Joe was never seen again. The trailer was removed a month after his disappearance. Relatives from Nevada, they say. The gold seekers were gone too. Tom Rivers and his company vanished as if they never existed. Bill Hayes called twice. The first time was to thank him for his search and to invite him to Laura's birthday party. I didn't go, too hard. The second call was in September. Bill had sold the house in 29 Palms and moved to his sister's place in Arizona. Said the desert had become a reminder of loss. "You know, Kyle," he said over the phone, "I'm grateful to know the truth. Uncertainty kills hope slowly, and the truth, even if it's painful, allows you to move on." Maybe he's right, but sometimes at night I think about the chemical containers in the mine, about Laura's notes about strange people, about the sudden interest of the feds. What if the girl didn't run into the usual drug dealers? What if there was something more serious going on in the desert? Sometimes I pull out Laura's photograph and remember the words spoken at her funeral. Without people who seek the truth, the world would be a darker place. But the truth has a price. Laura paid with her life. And how many other secrets do the silent canyons and abandoned mines of Joshua Tree hold? Friends, you just heard the story of Ranger Kyle Webb and the mysteries of the Mojave Desert. What would you do if you were him? Would you tell the whole truth about the chemical containers, or would you stay silent like he did? Did Laura really die by accident, or did she learn something dangerous? And who were the mysterious people she saw at the mine? If one abandoned mine hid so many secrets, how many other similar places exist in national parks? Write in the comments what you think of this story. Like it if you're as hooked on it as I am, and subscribe to the channel. There are many more mysteries to come from the most remote corners of the world.